Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. I am joined by Mandy, aka Mandy Bars on Instagram. I happened to stumble across them on their Instagram page because of a certain character that we'll be definitely talking about later on in the episode. Mandy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing as well as can be expected. I know it is, by the time this episode comes out, will be full on summer, but living down here in Orlando is already super hot.
Oh, yeah, we have heat advisory already up here in the Northeast.
It is wild. I know again, recording at end of June, temperatures all over the place are so hot, and I don't know. Like I keep talking about wanting to move to like Canada or really far north, and it's still hot. It's still hot everywhere.
Everywhere's going to be hot. You're not going to be able to escape it. Once it's summer, it's over. And everyone's complaining in the winter, like, I want it to be summer. And then when it is summer, everyone's like, it's too hot. You can never win.
I will just say for the record, I never say I want it to be summer. I want it to be cold. Give me cold. Now, I don't need like 30 and 40-degree temperatures cold, but give me like mid 60s and I'm okay. Like if I could find a place year round mid 60s, I would live there.
Oh, that's why autumn's my favorite season, because it's like 55 to 65, and then you have the leaves that change colors, Halloween, and my birthday. It's a win-win everywhere.
Meanwhile, in Florida, the leaves don't change. They're either green or they're dead. Well, not
Oh
dead, but they
no.
just drop all their leaves at once. And it's like, there's no color here. There's
But
nothing at all.
at least the palm trees look nice.
Yes, the palm trees look incredibly wonderful with Christmas lights wrapped around them.
Oh, right, for the holiday season.
Oh my goodness! Now, Mandy, I mentioned at the start, uh, there's a character that I happen to love. I share a very strong fondness for this character, and every so often, I go on Instagram and I just search the hashtag, Kitty Pride, and see what I come across, and that is how I stumbled across your Instagram. Was I found your Kitty Pride cosplay, and I was like, oh well, anybody that cosplays Kitty Pride is pretty cool, and followed, and now here we are, and I get to talk to you, and I'm already like over the moon about that. But one of your major fandoms is Marvel.
Yes, for sure.
Now with Marvel, again, so many different entry points now. I mean, we have comics, TV shows, movies, video games. Where did you start with your love of Marvel?
I started with the MCU, and I think like a lot of people did, I saw the first Captain America with my cousin who was really into the comics, and I think that's where I was like, oh, this is really cool. Because I had seen Iron Man and I was like, okay. But when I saw the first Captain America movie, I was in it. I was like, okay, they're gonna assemble the Avengers. This is gonna be a great saga. And that led to me watching all the Marvel movies when they came out, watching all the TV shows now. And I've been getting into some of the comics, X-Men, obviously. We'll talk about Kitty Pryde. But now with Black Widow coming out, I've been looking into more of her comics. I used to read the Hawkeye comics. Um, but yeah, I just got into it through the movie, the thing like a lot of people did. And that opened so many doors because it's not only the comics and the TV shows and the movies, but it's also Avengers, Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men. There's so many different facets to Marvel. That's most of what I love about it, is that you can go into any entry point, like you said. And yeah, I guess that's really how I did it. And I keep finding out new stuff about Marvel every day. I play this game called Contest of Champions. I don't know if you know it. It's like a
Hmm.
mobile.
Yep.
I have learned about so many Marvel characters that I'm like, oh, who's a nihilist? Who's the Hood? Um, so and then I look them up, and then I look at more comics, and I look at more media, and there's just so many. It's like it's the multiverse is real with Marvel. they it's an accurate term for how many characters there are and how many things you can get into with it.
Absolutely. It is definitely something, and like you said, there is so many different characters and different groups that you may not like Spider-Man, but you may like Fantastic Four, and you have that entry point, and you go into like that section. But as you read, then you get into other characters that show up, or crossovers, or hey, what's this? And it is super fascinating, especially with like these large fandoms like Marvel, where you have people that get into the Marvel fandom through like Agents of Shield,
Yeah.
or like you got into it through Captain America, which is a phenomenal movie. Um, and it was wonderful to see as they were making the movies. Is like, will we even get to the Avengers? Like the twinkle in the eye of maybe one day we'll have an Avengers movie. And sure enough, we not only got an Avengers movie, we got like 30 plus movies.
We got Avengers Endgame, and I think no, I don't know if they're making a fourth one. Rumors. There's so many rumors, but it's a good thing because that means there's so many things they can do. I don't even need to mention the whole Mephisto thing with WandaVision, and people are still quoting Mephisto for the Loki series. And that wouldn't be a thing unless you trace it back to Doctor Strange and back to the comics and back to Agatha Harkness. There's so many things you can go back to. I love Stan Lee so much and Jack Kirby, just all of these characters they've created and this world, like, oh my gosh, I hope they know how much we love it and how much we're like invested in it, you know?
Exactly. It is definitely something. And I love that when you talk about playing the game that you play, that when these characters come up, you research them and you look into them, and then you start going into like that kind of lore. Even though it may not even ever show up in like the Marvel movies, it exists in like the comic form, and you get to like dive into that stuff. That's really awesome.
Yeah, that's why I was so excited when I saw that Kate Bishop was going to be in the Hawkeye series. And then we saw the behind the scenes photos, and Lucky the Pizza Dog is going to be in it. And I read the only way I know Kate Bishop is through the comics. So
Yep.
when it finally was like, oh my gosh, now everyone's going to see Kate Bishop because when, well, everybody's seen Endgame, so not a spoiler alert. But when Hawkeye became Ronin, I'm like, okay, there's going to be a Hawkeye, right? Which is going to be Kate Bishop. Like the MCU can totally set this up. And now I'm even keeping an eye out for Young Avengers because they've
Hmm.
got the setup happening with Eli and Tommy and Billy and Kate and really all they'll need. Oh, and Kamala Khan, of course. And now all they'll need is like hulking, and they can completely do it. Or they can do West Coast Avengers. They can do so many things, and I only know these things because I've just done more research. And like in the game, Kamala Khan is actually like one of my 5-star champions, and I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of Miss Marvel. I've seen her in the animated series, but I don't know much about her. So I looked her up, and I'm like, wow, she's really cool, and now she's getting her own TV show, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it is definitely a wonderful time. Like when they announced after the movies and they announced all these TV shows, I was like, oh gosh, now I'm going to have to watch shows and the movies, and try to balance all that. But it's really been not terrible, and I don't know if it's more that it delayed on their movies, because last year we didn't have any Marvel stuff come out, but this
Yeah.
year they're catching up and releasing some of the movies, and they've got the TV shows I coming out, because I know we're wrapping up Loki. Loki should be done by the time this episode comes out, since there's only 6 episodes. But then we
Right.
have I think Kamala Khan's series should be out before the end of the year, along with the What If series.
Oh, yes.
So
I can't wait for What If. Everyone's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yes. Are you kidding me? T'Challa as Star-Lord, Peggy Carter as, like, Captain Britain or Captain
mhm.
UK, I'm not sure, but and then oh, and nobody's talking about Natasha on Vormir. That is oh, speaking of movies that didn't come out in 2020 and that have been pushed back so much, I'm just like on the edge of my seat for Black Widow to happen. And she's my favorite Marvel character because she's got so much to explore. We waited 10 years for her solo film, and they're like, okay, keeps pushing back and pushing back. And it was supposed to originally come out on my birthday. So
Oh my
I was
gosh.
so upset when they moved it. I was like, no, this is gonna be perfect. But it was 2020, and 2020 was a mess of a year. So um,
why is Black Widow your favorite character?
I think she is just such a badass. And just coming where she comes from, she's trained to be this assassin, to not have any free will. And something that I hate about the movies actually is that they don't explore Bucky and Natasha, who are a couple in the comics, because they come from the same background, Red Room training, you know, brainwashed to work for the Russians. And I think in Natasha's case, you see it manifest differently with Bucky, of course, but you see it in Winter Soldier, where she's like, could you at least recognize me? I think that's in
Mhm.
Winter Soldier, not Civil War. Yeah, Winter Soldier. Um, so they come from a different background, but anyway, I just love how Natasha is in, especially in the new movie that is coming out, that she's going to face this head on, and she always does. Like, she knows when to be professional and she knows when to keep it in and play a poker face. But this movie is really going to show what I love about her is that she's so determined, and she's just she's just a force to be reckoned with. And I also just, love a good female superhero. And I just think she's so much more than what we've seen so far. And that's why, like I said, I'm biting my nails for Black Widow to come out, because I, I guarantee it's going to be fantastic and what we've been waiting for. She doesn't like let anybody make her feel small. Like, you remember in that scene with Loki behind the glass.
Mhm.
Again, just poker face. She's so good at what she does, and she knows she's good at what she does. And I'm glad that we have a woman who feels that way and confidently feels that way. And again, total badass. I could go on and on about Natasha Romanoff for eons, but besides her, I adore Kitty Pride, but Kitty Pride again, total different conversation, because I love Kitty Pride for similar reasons, but different reasons as well.
Well, I have to ask, how did you first, I guess, stumble across Kitty Pride? What was your entry point, especially for getting to know her?
So I cosplayed Scott Summers, Cyclops, a while ago, and he was my first entry point into X Men. Um, and I actually did cosplay Emma Frost, but it was kind of like a spur of the moment cosplay where, okay, I have these pieces, like, let me see if I can get a look together. But I didn't really know much about her. And then I
Mhm.
started reading the comics, and I'm like, I do not like Emma Frost. And I was like, I totally agree with Kitty, especially when she's like, Professor Xavier's a jerk. I'm like, yes. So then I started reading the comics, and I just, not only did I love what Kitty stands for, but I saw so much of myself in her. She's Jewish like I am, she is sapphic like I am, and she is not afraid to let people know what she wants and how she feels. But she also has a playfulness to her that I think, again, I said I like Natasha and Kitty for different reasons. Natasha's playful, but she doesn't let it show as often. Kitty is much more youthful and playful than Natasha is. And I think when it comes to superheroes, like, you have kind of the gritty superheroes, like I have like Batman, and even Avengers gets gritty. But with X-Men, it's a little less so, because I just think that world is differently shaped. But yeah, my first entry point was technically Cyclops, and then Emma Frost, and then I got into Kitty. And the comic panel where she's talking about her Jewish identity really hit a chord with me, and that's when I started, like, I need to embody this character. I'm going to cosplay this character, and I just wanted to look as best as I can. And I think it's my favorite cosplay just because I have such a personal connection with it.
It is absolutely so good. I mean, I love Kitty Pride. I love the people that bust out the cosplays of her, whether it's the version that you do or like the Shadow Cat version, anything in between. It's always such a just a wonderful thing to stumble across is someone that just cosplays Kitty Pride. It's just a character that I fell in love with, whether it was from the comics, the multiple times that she's been in the different cartoon series, different versions of herself in different comic books, and even seeing Ellen Page as Kitty Pride in which movie? The third movie, the second movie? It's one of I think it's the third movie where it's Page playing Kitty
Right.
Pride.
But I'll definitely have to see the movies now with Elliot. And I did want to mention though, I especially love Kitty when she's Star Lord because, and I'm just gonna give a little teaser. I am putting together a cosplay of Kitty Star Lord that I will hopefully debut at KatsuCon 2022.
I think I saw you mention that on your story because
Yeah.
not many people know like that even exists. Like sometimes I even think to myself, did I make that up in my head? Like did this really exist? Was Kitty Star Lord? And then I'm like, I really just need to get those comics because it exists. It's real.
Yeah, and I'm just worried that people are gonna think I'm a femme Peter Quill. They're gonna be like, "Oh, nice, like, femme Peter Quill, nice femme Star Lord." Like, no, I'm Kitty Pryde as Star Lord, which is why when I posted that story, everybody messaged me going, "Well, you have to have Lockheed," and I'm like, "Well, that's a must.
Yep,
I have to get a Lockheed." And then if people don't know who I am, then they just don't know X
that's right. You tell them.
Men.
Now, but before we wrap up, I love to ask this question, especially when it comes to Marvel. If you were in charge of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they said, "Mandy, you get to choose anything at all to come to either a movie or a TV show," what would you love to bring to life? What would be your choice to bring to the either the big screen, the small screen?
Oh man. I I'm torn because it's oh man. Okay, so definitely Kitty Pryde is Star Lord with the Guardians, even with the Asgardians, with Thor, and then Kitty Pryde can be in there. Um, I think Kitty and Thor would be friends. I just think their energies are pretty similar. I think they would actually be better friends than Peter and Kitty. I know they're together, and there's also the running gag of Kitty being with multiple Peters.
Hmm.
But I just think it'd be a cool dynamic. But also, I'd love. So I was talking to my friend Terrence about this that Ant Man and Wasp was originally rumored to have their own series as opposed to a third movie. And originally I was like, nah, I want a movie. I want it to be on the big screen. You know, they're going to have Kang involved, so it has to be a whole ordeal. But now I'm on the camp of I'd like to see a series of Ant Man and Wasp because they're my favorite duo. And they're like my favorite team up in uh, lore because, you know, they're superpowers, but they have super science. And I think we don't know still that much about quantum physics and quantum realms. So I think that would also be really cool. And then to have Cassie Lang, obviously, but just throw Kitty Pride in there somewhere, and I'll green light it. It's good.
Awesome. Yeah, I love getting to hear everyone's choices because it's never the same answer. Not ever will I ever hear the same answer of, oh, it's going to be this, because sometimes people just pluck obscure characters and they're like, we could do it on this character or this character and it will still work. They will make it work.
Right, that's what I was saying before. With there's so many characters and so many universes with Marvel, you can pull from anywhere and you can join them. Like Asgard into the Galaxy technically brings 3 universes into it.
I am
If we include Kitty, if we include Kitty.
I am so looking forward to everything that's coming out. But Black Widow, Shang Chi, the
Yes.
Eternals. Because I like as a generally a comic book reader, I am not familiar with the Eternals at all as far as characters go, their story, their history. So that's the one where when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and they said, "Oh, how can you be making this movie?" They're like D-list characters at the time, and it did so well. And now the Eternals is lined up, and I'm like, I have no clue who this is, but Marvel has done no wrong at this point.
Fair. Iron Man 3, but we don't talk about Iron Man 3.
I don't talk about Thor 2, or the Dark World. That's the one I'm like,
Yeah, Ragnarok was so good. We can kind of forgive them. Okay, you gave us Ragnarok, so
that's
we'll get there.
now one of your other fandoms, which is one of the ones where I look to and I'm like, you know what, this fandom has been going on for years, and it continues to go on for years. And by the time I get old and gray and my kids have kids, I am 100% positive that this fandom will continue to be in existence, and that is Star Trek.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny you should say that because my parents are huge Trekkies. My mom, especially, is like the biggest Trekkie ever. And actually, my full name is Amanda. Mandy's a nickname. And she named me after Spock's mother. That's not a joke. That is true. And
I don't laugh to like be laughing. I'm laugh as in that's a good thing. That's cool.
oh, absolutely. And then when I saw the episode with Spock's parents, and my mom loves Spock and the Vulcans and everything in that universe, I was like, oh, I see the appeal of this character because, Spock's half Vulcan, half human, and his mother is the human, and he really gets in touch with his human side with her. And she's like very gentle and compassionate, kind of like what you want a human to be. And like if you're gonna have like an ambassador, like Sarek is, you want the best. So I love that. And I used to like moan and like roll my eyes like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, nerd. And then I got into Star Trek and I was like, oh, I see the appeal. And I went back and I watched the original series because according to my mom, that's the best. And I was like, I'm only gonna watch the best. I did watch a little bit of Next Generation, but I haven't really gotten past that just because I go off what my mom recommends. She's like, these are the best episodes of the original series. These are the best episodes of Next Generation. I don't like Deep Space Nine or Voyager. I don't like when it involves war. And I'm like, all right, I'll stay out of that for now. We'll focus on William Shatner and Patrick Stewart.
I am nodding my head here because it is rare to talk to people that are into really the original series. It is something where it doesn't come up that much. It's the Trek that's been around, but I know that a lot of people don't go back and watch it. And here you are,
Hell
original
yeah.
series. What's up with that? That's cool.
Original series is where it's at. You got to think back, and you're like, so many of the shows and books and movies, video games we have today come from Star Trek. Like they were the first. Well, I would put Doctor Who in this category as well.
Hmm.
From the '60s sci-fi, '60s sci-fi as a whole put sci-fi as a genre really on the map for pop culture, and Star Trek influenced Star Wars and Battlestar, Galactica, which I think was around the same time. I getting my decades mixed up. But it just went on, I'm just my mind is like spinning because there's just so many things I could talk about that came from Star Trek. Anything that involves space, anything that involves space discovery in the sci-fi realm had to have some inspiration, at least from Star Trek, from Gene Roddenberry.
Hmm.
It's and really okay, how did I not mention this? Star Trek conventions and sci-fi conventions that spiraled into the conventions we have today. Like it started in the 50s and 60s with sci-fi and Star Trek and people cosplayed there.
Yep.
And so there's just so much we owe to Star Trek. And yeah, it's definitely cheesy at times. All right, in the first episode when they have that dog that they put the horn on, it's like this is an alien, and it's like no, it's not. It's a dog with a prop on its head. But there's a charm to it. That's also kind of why I'm a little hesitant to even go to Star Trek Discovery or Picard because I know it's going to be a lot of like 2021 CGI and effects. And I'm a big practical effects person. Even if it's cheesy, there's a charm to it, and there's like genuine prop work and effort behind that. Just don't. And of course, you see it in the Marvel movies all the time, but uh, they make up for that, I think, in their wardrobe, because the wardrobe effects are and the makeup effects, like for again getting into Marvel, like Yondu and Gamora, are fantastic. And again, that even goes back Guardians of the Galaxy to Star Trek. It all comes full circle.
It's not, and you had mentioned the influence Star Trek and also Doctor Who had on sci-fi as a whole. But I mean, you look at like things like cell phones and iPads and stuff of
Yeah,
that nature, and they had things in the series that were essentially what we're carrying around now. Like, who ever thought back then that we'd be able to have a computer in our hands that can be as powerful as computers that took up entire rooms in that day and age? It's something where you see it and then you look around and you're like, I'm living it. Like, we have robot like things that vacuum our floors or can mow the lawn at this point, and it's just something where it's just space. Like, I just that's the next thing is space. But
space, the final frontier,
that's right.
of course. And, that's great that you mentioned that, because Star Trek has just made an impact on history. And I just always think about Nichelle Nichols, and her character, and how Martin Luther King just came up to her, and, well, MLK came up to her, and she was debating leaving the show.
Hmm.
And he's like, "You can't do that. You're such a role model for the Black community. And, like, you're in a major TV show and you're a Black woman." And and then that led to the first interracial kiss on television. And now, you look at Uhura, and I love Uhura so much. I always say, like, she's kind of the Hermione of the Enterprise. Without her, the ship would be in shambles. Kirk, Spock wouldn't know what to do. But she is such an inspiration for, you know, female characters in sci-fi, especially female characters of color, Black characters in sci-fi. And again, that was Star Trek that put that on the map. Yeah, I am still waiting for 3D chess to be a thing, but for now I can recognize just the historical and scientific influence of, well, historic and scientific influence of the original series of just the Star Trek universe. It's really something that I think more people should appreciate, because everyone's like, oh, well, this is, it's 60s sci-fi. Yeah, but, you wouldn't have Star Wars without Star Trek. You wouldn't. I'm a believer of that.
And you mentioned Nichelle Nichols and the role that she played with representation on the show, and I think that at least by the time this episode comes out, there should be a documentary. I think it's on HBO Max, of her involvement with NASA, where they had asked her to do work with NASA to do like promotional videos, and she said, "Well, where are my people? Where are um, the Black people? Where are women? Why aren't they in the space system too?" And she opened doors into NASA to have people of color and more women be involved in the programs, and that was also something where I was like, some of these things I had never even heard of until just like recently. And it's just so wonderful to know how much of an influence like she played in modern stuff that's happening now. Like, it wouldn't have been without her, essentially.
That's amazing. I didn't know that documentary was happening, but I definitely have to give it a watch, because I love the Shell Nichols. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Now, for Star Trek, as far as the original series goes, is Uhura your favorite character, or is there somebody else that you love?
Ah, I love Uhura so much. It always goes back and forth, just depending on the episode. Like, obviously, the naked time, I'm loving Sulu in that, but because he just jumps out with the sword. Uh, in Mirror Mirror, I love Spock because you get to see evil bearded Spock.
Yep.
But also Chekhov is great in that episode, and Chekhov was my favorite for a while. But I think at the moment it is Uhura for sure.
Do you watch the movie, like the original series movies, the 1 through 6, or did you just stick to the show?
I've only seen bits and pieces of the movies. I actually did see the reboot, the one with Chris Pine,
Okay.
but I only saw the sequel to it. The one with the alien, she was like white and black and like
Okay, the
kind of
third
looked
one.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and that felt like a Star Trek episode to me. I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't give these movies too much grief because that one I actually liked. I'm like, okay, I could definitely see this being an original series movie. But then when Spock pulled out the picture, I needed tissues. I was so sad. Do you remember that scene where he has the picture of the original crew?
Yeah. Yep.
Ah,
Yep.
and that was like, oh my gosh, because that's again where it started. There wouldn't even be reboots of this series if it wasn't so important and beloved. But should definitely, I should definitely sit down and actually watch the movies.
Yeah, I know the running joke is with the original series movies, the odd ones are bad, the even ones are good. So like Wrath of Khan is good, uh,
Of course, that's
Voyage
fun.
Home good, Undiscovered Country good, and then the other ones are like, oh gosh, I have to sit through them to get to the good movies, but they all add to the mythology of the original series characters. It's really good time. Really, it's something where it's what I grew up on, was watching original series, but then also Next Generation was on at the time, so I was watching the Next Generation, the original series movies. Joined the Star Trek fan club, had my uniform, did Star Trek conventions like you brought up. Like those were my first conventions, were purely Star Trek conventions where it was Star Trek guests, and a
Right?
lot of the memorabilia, like dealers and stuff, were Star Trek or science fiction themed stuff that they would bring, and the people that dressed up were all Star Trek, is Klingons and Vulcans, Romulans, and people in different uniforms. It was like that's my first experience to conventions in general, was just Star Trek conventions.
That's really cool because again, it's just only like some of the best fandoms have their own kind of niche conventions where it can just be about that one show or movie or however. Because, most of the cons these days are like focused on more general things like anime and then comics. But that, like, Star Trek gets its own convention because that's the blueprint. And again, like you were saying, Klingons, Romulans, Orion slave girls, everybody in the uniforms. There's so many different characters and aliens in that show that you can cosplay or talk about. You can speak Klingon. Again, this is another thing I can just ramble on and on about. Um, Star Trek really is just. I am now. Now I'm at a loss for words. But that's really cool that you went to Star Trek conventions. I think my mom went to a few when she was young, but I don't think she ever dressed up.
Yeah, I think I dressed up once, but it was again, living in Florida, not the best to wear a full uniform
Yeah,
around the
oh
convention. It's like, I'm hot.
yeah, no, could definitely fare better for like one of the mirror mirror outfits for like her, which is like a lot of breathing room, breathability. I did see somebody at New York Comic Con dressed as Mirror Mirror Uhura, and I had to stop her for a picture. I usually don't do that because I'm like, okay, I gotta get the one point to another, gotta get the photo shoots, gotta get the panels. I was like, oh my gosh, I need your picture because you're Mirror Mirror Uhura.
That is
You're gonna
awesome.
ah yes. Whenever I see a Star Trek cosplay, oh, I saw an amazing con. I actually went to the 50th anniversary, 40th or 50th anniversary of Star Trek. It was an event at the Javits Center a while back.
Hmm.
Um, and I cosplayed Chekhov because I was really into Chekhov at the time, and I was going to meet Walter Koenig there. So I saw somebody who was a dead on con, and I'm like, I need just a selfie with you, just because he like had the chains and everything. He was from the movie, and I recognized him from the movie because I'd seen that kind of piece from it. Um, oh man, and when we did like the whole con thing, it never gets old. It really, and again, like you were saying, when you're old and gray, your kids are gonna carry it on, and I hope that happens when I'm old and gray too, because like it's the '60s, and here we are, like really 50 years later, still talking about Star Trek and its impact.
Exactly, and we'll be talking about it most likely long until you and I are around. Hopefully, continues on and is just one of those cornerstones of not only pop culture but of culture worldwide, because it's far reaching. It touches everywhere.
Right.
Now, Mandy, we have another fandom that almost way predates Star Trek.
Yes.
We're going in like chronological order backwards, which
We're going back
we
in
we
time.
did
We're time traveling.
we're going around backwards. We hit Marvel, we did Star Trek. There's really only one major fandom that has been around even longer than Star Trek, and that is the Lord of the Rings.
Yes. I mean, hey, Bucky read The Hobbit when it came out,
I
so
loved that line. That was a phenomenal piece where I was like, damn, that was good.
that was great. I love their interactions. Sam and Bucky. So good.
Now with Lord of the Rings again, books or movies? Where did you go or start from?
Well, I had everybody tell me that I love Lord of the Rings because I'd read Harry Potter and I was into that like fantasy world building, Hunger Games, that kind of um, those genres. And I just never sat down and watched the movies or read it. And then in college, I majored in literature and writing. So there was a course called Medieval and Modern in Tolkien, and it was about how medieval literature shaped Lord of the Rings and like Tolkien's work. And I'm like, this sounds interesting. This is going to get me to read Lord of the Rings. So we started with like Beowulf, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, The Wanderer, and we had background on Tolkien and like how he used uh, those texts to shape his own world. And then we read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, all three books. And we even dabbled in the movies. We did a whole project on intertextuality and like how Lord of the Rings and Tolkien has affected pop culture. And I actually did mine on cosplay, funny enough. Um, I made a presentation on like how Tolkien's inspired cosplayers and how cosplay is essentially a form of intertextuality because it's putting your passion into bringing a character to life, taking either from book description or from the movie or from however you imagined them in your own head. Like for instance, in The Hobbit, Goldberry, I she was not in the movie, so people have cosplayed Goldberry before. So it's just cool to see their interpretations of, okay, they took it from the book and then they kind of put their own elements into it, and it again just goes onto like how that impacts worldwide culture as a whole. But I'm going on a tangent back to how I got into Lord of the Rings, and through that class and through reading the books, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I actually did my dissertation on Lord of the Rings because it was my senior year. And it was on Frodo and Sam in particular and how that relationship can be read as queer. And we had to cite like medieval texts for that. And I pulled quotes from the books. There's a lot of homoerotic subtext with those two. And my dream is to meet Sean Astin and get him to sign it. All I want. Because I've met Elijah Wood and I've met Billy Boyd for photo ops. And I briefly told Billy Boyd that I wrote about Lord of the Rings. I didn't tell him what, but I think Sean Astin would love to have that conversation of, hey, I wrote about how Sam and Frodo are gay. Would you like to sign it? It's like 18 pages.
That is awesome. I don't think I've ever talked to somebody that's written papers about their fandoms, but I could be wrong. Maybe I have, and I just don't know it. But that is it's definitely something to where, like, taking a class and then having to read it is one of those things where it's like, oh, it could go either one of two ways. Like you read it and you hate it, or you read it and you really like it. Because I know a number of my friends, they were like, "Yeah, I'm not reading this book because he just goes into too much detail. It's too much." And I'm like, "Okay, I can see that." And then me, I remember getting the books for my 12th or 13th birthday, and when I was reading them, number one, I had nightmares of the ring wraiths, so that was wonderful.
Oh,
And then I thought Mary and Pippin were both female characters because apparently I'm not wasn't a good reader at the time, but I was like, oh, they're all guys, like Hobbit boys, wandering through, and it's like, okay, I totally misread that part, but yeah, it's like,
that's a big theme. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a big theme. Brotherhood and like friendship between men. And it comes from Tolkien's time in the war
yep.
of his friends and his circle. And he put that into the Fellowship and the Hobbits. And just knowing about Tolkien really adds to Lord of the Rings. You're like, oh, I've made the connection. I see what's happening. But go ahead, continue about the ring wraiths and Merry and Pippin.
That's okay. But this year is actually the 20th anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring releasing into the movie theater. Now, are you a fan of the movies as well, or are you more sticking to the books, or do you like both?
I like both. I think the movies did a great job at adapting Lord of the Rings. I'm not as big a fan of the Hobbit movies.
Hmm.
I don't get why they split it into multiple movies because it's a children's book.
Yeah.
He wrote it. Um, he wrote it to read to his kids, like a bedtime story. Like, okay, this is like a children's book. We can't make it just one movie. But either way, the film franchise as a whole is fantastic. I think everybody's perfectly cast. I think they've got the characters down, the big battle scenes down. You know, there's nothing like Gandalf the White just showing up. Gandalf the Grey before, because you know Gandalf the White's coming, but you know it's the Balrog. You shall not pass. You're just waiting. And when Ian McKellen just so good. See, I can get like hype about the movies and the books, and that's how I know it's a great series. Because any way you make it, it's going to be fantastic. Which I hope we can say for the Amazon Prime Lord of the Rings TV series. That I'm slightly apprehensive about. But again, I think because the material is so good and so rich, you really can't go wrong. And if you get it wrong, you really messed up somewhere.
As far as Amazon Prime, I like, I'm trying not to spoil myself too much. I saw some casting photos. I'm like, okay. And then I know that
Mm,
they've agreed to like more than one season already. They said, I think they've got like two or three already budgeted. So I'm like, okay, if they're going to invest the money, they're in it for the long haul, and I can only hope that it works. Um,
right.
and I like you mentioned with the Hobbit movies why they broke them up, and I always think back because I grew up watching the Hobbit animated movie as a kid over and over and
Yeah.
over again. I'm like, that movie is only, I think, an hour, a little bit over an hour, and I'm like, it works. It works as the
Yeah.
animated movie, and then and then you want me to watch 7 or 8 hours of The Hobbit, and you've added so much stuff. And like, I rewatched them, I think last year during pandemic time, they were all available, and I rewatched them, and I could cut so much from these movies. So much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and there's extended editions. It's like, okay, you included more things. But that's I call that a religious experience watching Lord of the Rings extended edition. Like that, like everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like, Endgame is so long. Have you sat down and watched Lord of the Rings extended
Oh,
edition?"
that's the only way I will watch Lord of the Rings is with the extended editions, but I don't know if I could do Hobbit extended editions.
I don't know. I mean, there's so much lore to it, and I guess maybe you would know this. I haven't done much looking into it, but we also read parts of the Silmarillion in our class, which is the fact that Tolkien essentially made an encyclopedia for the lore of his world. How much time did he have? And you like see the edits from his son who published the manuscripts. He makes these just little changes of like names, and I'm like, how nitpicky did you get? I think like one of the hobbits was supposed to be named Bingo instead of like Bilbo, and I'm like,
Mhm.
who cares? But Bilbo does sound better. But had they ever made any kind of adaptation of the Silmarillion?
N
Had they tried?
Not that I'm aware of. I speaking personally, I've never even tackled it. I've heard stories about the Silmarillion. In fact, one of my previous guests on the podcast was like, "I love the Silmarillion. It's the best thing out of the Lord of the Rings series." And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can get through some pretty serious readings, but I always have heard Silmarillion is like one of the toughest things to read. I don't think that they've tackled anything, whether it's movie adaptations, even I don't think even like the Hobbit extended editions touch anything from there, and the animated series or the animated movies definitely didn't touch anything. So I don't know if it's ever been brought up, and maybe the Amazon Prime stuff will do it because it's supposed to be Second Age that they're playing in with the show. So
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
maybe it'll be closer to that kind of material for it, but no,
Right.
not me, not yet.
Because that goes into the third age. The Silmarillion kind of ends with the rings, um, and like getting into Frodo and the Fellowship, and that how it will lead into it. But if you're gonna read one story of the Silmarillion, read Beren and Luthien because they are ancestors of Aragorn and Arwen. So knowing about those two will be like, oh, now that makes sense because it's the same. Not to spoil things, but human man, elven woman type of thing.
Gotcha.
And it's not sad. It's not sad at all. It's actually quite well. I mean, I remembered how it kind of ends. Like, ah, well, that's kind of sad. It's great if you're a huge fan. Definitely, you got to take it in pieces. But if you're gonna read just one thing from that monster of a of a text, yeah, Baron Luthien for sure. And I remember we had to do projects on that for the class, and I got like the most upsetting story, Turum Turumbar, which is like this guy just keeps getting like the worst fortunes thrown at him. And I'm like, dang, Tolkien, like you must really not like this character that you're creating. Everything just keeps going wrong for him. He like, I'm not gonna spoil it, no spoilers. But yeah, just seeing, I always recommend that to people who are really invested because then you kind of get like a bird's eye view of Arda and Middle Earth
hmm
and the gods and how the different creatures came to be. And that leads right into the ring.
It's always something. I know whenever I get stuck on like Wikipedia, I go through like Wikipedia rabbit holes of just, oh, this character was mentioned. Let me click on that. Oh, let me click on another thing. And I'll spend hours like Lord of the Rings Wikipedia just looking up all different things. And it's like, okay, you got to stop. There's got to be a stopping point. Like, okay, you've looked
Oh,
into the
yeah.
Blue Wizards. Okay, we got to stop. We're at that point. Okay, got to go.
Yes, absolutely. With Lord of the Rings, it's so expansive. You can just go down so many rabbit holes, like you said.
Now, Lord of the Rings inspired another thing that you're into, which is Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role playing.
Yes.
How'd that happen?
Actually, this kind of is a great transition because somebody in the Tolkien class, with a friend of mine in college, she said, "Hey, I'm going to host a D&D game. Like, do you want to play? I know you've expressed interest." And somebody actually had done Dungeons and Dragons, like as a presentation for the beginning projects, and like how Tolkien inspired Dungeons and Dragons, uh, races and environments and classes and stuff like that. Like the only reason we can't say Hobbit is because of the Tolkien estate.
Right.
It's like halflings and hobbits are the same thing.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. Like I'd be really into that. And I was with that campaign for a while. Um, and I liked the game, like in the concept, but I just didn't like how we were going about it. And I'm like, there has to be a way I can enjoy this game. So I ended up actually leaving that campaign. I'd gotten most of the rules down and I liked it, but then I actually moved to another campaign that I started with a few other friends that I actually made over quarantine. And we think we're going to be on session like 16 or 17. I'm on Tuesday, and it's been a blast. Like I just, it was my love for D&D was reinvigorated. Like because I go in and I'm like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I'm like, yeah, D&D, and then I play it. And I'm like, wait a minute, D&D has to be better than this. And now I've clicked with the DMs, I've clicked with the other players, and I'm actually starting a new campaign on July 4th. Uh, and that's going to be with some friends over Discord. So, I think the love was always there because the love for Lord of the Rings and sci-fi fantasy was always there.
Hmm.
But it does definitely depend on like you got to play with the right people. Coming in as a beginner because this game's been around since the 70s
Yep.
or like 5E. There's been so many iterations of it. You just got to find like a DM who will be understanding. Won't go too hard on you, and you got to have fun with it. It's not everyone's like, oh no, I rolled bad. No, but like, if you roll bad, then that leads to something completely new and you'll have a chance to like redeem yourself. And then you have other party members and other stats that can help you. And just D&D is a game of chaos and, I don't know if I could curse,
You can.
but
It's fine.
I'll say chaos, fun, and bullshit is what I call D&D. Like, it's like, it's not this such a serious, like, game, and that's kind of what I didn't like about the campaign I was in first. It was so, like, serious, and I felt like I couldn't mess up, but in this campaign I'm with now, we're making jokes. We have a chat we'll send memes into for, like, visual references. Like, this is the tank top my character is wearing right now, and it'll be like, "Bro, do you even lift?" It'll be, like, stupid stuff like that, and I think that's what makes D&D a lot of fun is that we take it from Tolkien and we take it from this lore, but we add our own spin onto it. And really, in the chaos, and it's like the multiverse, anything goes, anything can work.
It's always something with Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop role playing, and I love exactly what you said because it is absolutely finding the right group and the right people to play with because you're investing so much time, not only like playing with them, but investing time into your character and investing time into creating like these stories with people that you need to make sure you're doing it with the right people because it definitely does not work if you don't have like the right person running the game or you don't really get along or you don't have the same vision as like other players. It can be a tough thing, and it's definitely something where it's like you totally once you find that group, it's like, please stay together. Please let our times work on the same time so we can always play.
Absolutely. And we'll even like adjust it because we always want to get to the next session and see what happens next. So I'll be like, all right, can we move it to Thursday? Yeah, let's do Thursday. And then we'll start back again on Tuesday. And we'll always end on a really good note. We're like, ooh, we're so excited. And the DM's excited and we're excited. Um, the campaign I'm with right now is a small party, but it's so much fun. And just it again, you gotta find the right group of people. And if you're already friends, because I went into that first campaign not knowing a few people.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, now I have to like make friends with them, and then I have to like role play and play D&D with them. And that's just a lot to like process and handle. But if you're already friends with people and they're all interested and they're all kind of beginners as well, you go in with like people who've been playing for years. Of course, you're gonna feel like some like imposter syndrome. But again, good group that you like mesh well with, that's kind of in the same boat as you. It's been one of like, and the DM is fantastic. It's been one of like the most fun things I've been doing on my Tuesday evenings or evenings in general.
Now with D&D, do you have like a specific class or specific character type that you tend to lean towards where you're like, I like playing this type. This is this is my go-to.
Not necessarily, but the character I have now is a rogue, and he's a lot of fun. Because do sneak attacks, and my stealth is really good. And he's also an assassin subclass, so I have like 4 weapons on me, and that's a lot of fun to use when we're in combat. Because I'm like, okay, I could go for the dagger, I could go for the rapier or short sword, but I'm also elemental based, so I can produce flame. I can use that to attack too. There's just so many different possibilities. And with a rogue, it is always chaos because it's an assassin rogue. You're all right. The DM's already got their hands full with us as a group, but my character in particular likes to cause problems.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. It's been too long for me or it's been too long since I've been able to play, but I always say one day. I tried to get my kids into it, but my two boys are very antagonistic towards each other. So they
Oh.
try to they don't really work together in a party setting, and I'm like, this is kind of what we need you to do, is be a group and work together to solve problems and help each other, not like, oh, I'm going to stab him, like that. It doesn't work.
No, it's a lot about teamwork. That's one of the great things about D&D too. You get like actual life lessons. Like, okay, we have to work together as a team to take down this monster. Or, let's divide up the work and let's communicate with each other so, things don't go sideways. And just, it's way more fun though, because you get to be like an imaginary creature in like an imaginary continent where magic exists. So,
It's fun times.
sometimes, totally.
Now, Mandy, we talked about so many different fandoms, but well, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about how I stumbled across you, which is Instagram, which is cosplay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, how did you decide that you wanted to start dressing up as different characters?
So we got to take it back nearly 10 years ago because in October it will be my 10-year anniversary of my first convention. And want to say it's not technically my first cosplay because I technically did cosplay before that, but for simplicity's sake, it will be my 10-year cosplay anniversary in October from New York Comic Con. I had a friend at the time, we were in high school. She had a spare ticket to New York Comic Con. I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. And so I like threw on a wig and it was so bad, looking back on it, you cringe. But uh and then I went and I saw that people really took this dressing up thing seriously. And I had that little like kind of Canon camera at the time, like little,
Yep. Little
and
handheld,
so
yeah.
yeah, so I was taking pictures. I got them all like printed out, and because I was like snapping away, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you look cool, and you look cool, you look cool." Um, and then I kind of started getting into it with like Anime Next when it used to be in Somerset near Comic Con, and it'd be kind of an occasional thing I would do. And then I got into college, and I went to school pretty close to the city. So I was able to go to New York Comic Con like every year. And the good news was that like I liked this cosplay thing. It was kind of like, more of a, oh, if there's a con, like, sure. But I didn't have people to go with. So I was always like trying to like grab my hometown best friend into it or my friends from college into it. Uh, and then I remember I was at East Coast Comic Con with one of my college friends, and I was Slash, and she was Axl Rose. Just because like we had the hair for it, because I have like this wild curly black hair, and she's got like this blonde short hair. So then I saw somebody dressed as the same character at Mecha Goblin. His name's Billy, or also Bill Pork Design, and he does a lot of crossovers. He was like the Slash Flash, so he had like the Flash emblem on his shirt, and like the top hat. Like, oh my gosh, we're the same character. And I started talking to him, and then I went to New Jersey Comic Expo later that year and saw him again. And I was dressed as 11 from the second season of Stranger Things. And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to be part of a Stranger Things shoot. Do you want to join?" And I had never been part of any kind of photo shoot. Like, I never really taken cosplay to that level.
Hmm.
I was like, "Okay, sure, that sounds fun." And so I went to the cosplay shoot and I loved it. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool. Like, you could do photo shoots in cosplay and, you could get groups together." And then I started talking to people there, and then I had friends to go to cons with, and then I had cosplay friends. And, those friends introduced me to their friends, and then I made a cosplay Instagram. And really, ever since like end of 2018, I've been really invested into it. And here I am now, technically cosplaying for almost 10 years and really taking it seriously for about, oh gosh, when's 2018? 3 years.
Math, higher math.
Math, right?
We're not here for the math. We're here for the cosplay.
No, exactly.
Scrolling your Instagram as one does when I invite people to the podcast, I'm always like, let's see what fandoms they're into, and you have a wide range of characters that you've done, whether it's uh the teenage oh gosh, the long name from the Deadpool movie, teenage
Yeah,
nega,
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
yes, and
Yeah.
you've got that, you've got you're a hobbit, you're, I think, what, Bilbo. Yep.
Frodo.
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 My bad, man, Frodo. And then you mentioned Emma Frost. You got oh my gosh, my words are failing me right now. You got Natasha. You've got Kitty Pryde, Belle, all sorts of different characters. How do you decide ultimately which characters you're going to do? Is it more that you vibe with the character, or you're like, hey, I really like that outfit and I really like to do that, or is it like a mixture of both?
It's usually the first of like, I really vibe with this character. Um, and then sometimes it'll be like, wow, I just aesthetically love their design. That happened with Kitty, of course, when I just saw so much of myself in her. And that's how I didn't really vibe as Emma. I was like, how I'm not really feeling this kind of like uh queen bee, like cold kind of bitch type of vibe. Not to say that Emma isn't badass in her own right, but I don't like some of the decisions she makes. I don't like how she talks to Kitty or Jean. But um, yeah, it's mostly, do I vibe with them? Do I relate to them? It's usually kind of an instinctive, that one. That's the one I see myself in, and I want to embody that. But a lot of times I'll just be like, wow, that outfit's really cool. Like Belle's ball gown, like I vibe with Belle already. I love to read, and I love a princess who can stand up for herself. Um, but I was like, that ball gown is fantastic. And I'm going to bring that to life because I also took elements from that ball gown specifically, and I am upgrading my ball gown. It's actually sitting in a container across the room, but that will be another debut because the dress is so heavy and I have to figure that out. But that dress in particular, I borrowed elements from the Broadway Beauty and the Beast. And that was an aesthetic love of, I love theater costumes, and just some of the ruffles and the beading was taken just directly from Susan Egan's Belle. And It really just depends on the character, but again, if I don't feel like I'm in it, then I'm not really gonna, like I'll be like, "Okay, like, that was a one-time thing, I looked good, but let's see who else I can vibe with," and that's why I really like, that's why I love my Kitty c Pride cosplay, because I see I we're we have so many similarities, and I just feel like so confident. That same thing happened when I wore Natasha for the first time when I was Black Widow at KatsuCon. I remember just being in the Gaylord lobby and just going, I feel so good right now. Like I feel like I can take on the world. And like in basic form, it's like, the suit and the blasters and like my wig, but it's like, no, like I feel like an Avenger. I feel a badass. So whenever that feeling happens, I'm like, this is gonna be a staple, and that's my, process.
I love that you also do characters that I'm like, I love them because it's just like I love Kitty Pride, right? I'm like, okay, I love Kitty Pride. I love that you do Velma from Scooby Doo because she's another character I love.
Absolutely.
Annie Edison. Not only do you have like the yellow jacket Annie, but you have evil Annie, and it's like, who does evil Annie? But that's awesome that you did evil Annie.
Yes, I love Annie Edison. I binge watched Community over, quarantine, and it's, like, one of my favorite shows. It's hysterical, I quote it every single day. And Annie was that character. I'm like, I see myself in you. I love you. And I have Paintball Annie in the works. I have Cooperative Calligraphy Annie in the works when she loses her pen. And I just have so many outfits I want to do from her. Partially because Test Pattern Cosplay is going to do so many Troy outfits, but also because I love Annie Edison.
All cosplayers have a list, and you mentioned the Annie cosplays that are on your list. What are some big ones that are on your list? Whether it's this year, we have 6 months at this point as we're recording, or actually less than 6 months now until the end of the year, or even next year. What are some cosplays or some characters that you would love to finish and get out there in the upcoming year and a half?
Definitely Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Nice.
who again, I see so much of me in her. And before I even started watching the series, my friend Savannah at Stormy Things Cosplay was like, "You're Toph. You have to watch Avatar. You're literally her." And I'm like, "All right, like I'll give it a go." And not only did I love the show, but as soon as Toph came on, I'm like, "Yep, that's it. I'm watching the rest of this show because she's in it." So I have her dress from the beginning, but I do want to eventually make her Earthbender outfit. Uh, and I actually got a sewing machine for the holidays, so that's going to be the first cosplay I try and sew and make myself. Um, I really want to get Bella's prom outfit done from Twilight because my friend Kayla and I at Paladin of Stars are doing Alice and Bella at KatsuCon, but there's so much more for outfits from the movies that I'd love to recreate, and the gazebo and Katsucon's a beautiful setting for all of this. So that's an ongoing project, but I think, those are my top 2 because I'm going to get multiple outfits for them. Once I find a character, you can see this with Annie, that has multiple outfits, I'm going to do as many of them as physically and financially possible, and as much as my closet space allows. When I get to, like, maybe 5, 6 outfits, I'll go, I don't think I have enough room anymore. Maybe I should move on to another character."
What out of curiosity, because you do have a number of different cosplays on your Instagram, and I'm scrolling through. What's the one that's most surprised you or surprised other people that you have done as far as a cosplay goes?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Um, I think Spinel, because she was ambitious to make. I styled the wig myself, and I never done body paint before. So I was surprised at how well it was received, but also of my skills because I never made a wig like that before. and so many techniques I had never done, and I was like, "Wow, like, I pulled this off." And, it's so pink, and I always say, like, I hate pink, but funny enough, I dressed in all pink for that character. So, it's like, do I really wanna do this? Like, I loved her in the movie, um, like, she's so cute, but, like, really, can I do this? And then when I did, and people, like, of course, they understood who it was, um, and just it all came together, and it was the first cosplay at Katsucon, and that's, like, the one you're really anxious about, like, "Okay, it's the first cosplay of the day, like, alright, like, this is gonna set the tone for the weekend." Um, really any con, uh but I think Spinel, just because she was so out of my element when I first did her, and now I'm like, I need a garden to shoot at because I wanna get into her again.
For your cosplay, and yeah, you've been doing it for 10 years. Is there anything in the past 10 years where you've been, whether it's been looking at cosplay or how it's evolved, is there anything that's been like, wow, I can't believe like this has changed or this has happened, like whether it's in the community or just with your own skills, like can't believe how far you've come?
It's I think for how far I've come is, I first started it as like, oh, there's a convention in the area. Like, I'll pull something together and just go for a day. Just, and I was still in high school when I was doing that. And then I guess how much I really started making it a hobby, because once I got, like, friends in it, then we talk about it, and then we'd work on things together and plan groups, and I had never heard of, like, cosplay groups or even the photo shoots, as I was saying before. So, I think just the sense of community really surprised me in the beginning, and it surprises me now of, I recently passed, 2K on Instagram. I'm like, "Wow, like, there's so many people in the community and so many people who appreciate my work and my efforts and my talents." And it is kind of like I gotta take a step back, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool that people are into this, and even like non-cosplay people, because I have a personal account now, but before I didn't used to. It was just a cosplay account. um and they'd ask for my Instagram, like, "Oh, like, what is this that you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like cosplay." And now I guess this kind of answers your question now. A lot of people are into it. Like, usually it was like, "Oh, like, just nerds do that." But with the popularity of Marvel movies and, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and stuff like that, I think it's now a lot more an anime. Oh, how can I forget anime becoming really popular? Um, a lot of more people think it's cool. And, like, a lot of people, like, wanna go to conventions and dress up. And I'm like, "Oh, cool, like, join us."
Join us, bring cookies.
"We accept you, one of us," you know?
I know that that's one of the things whenever I talk to people who are cosplayers is usually their first con, they go, they see the people that are dressed up and they're like, "Hey, that looks fun." And they that's generally like that entry point into cosplay. And you're absolutely right. Like you don't think about, especially with fandoms like Harry Potter or Star Wars, where or Star Trek, where you get the costume, you get the uniform, right? The Star Trek uniform, the Harry Potter school robes with your house colors, and that's cosplaying without even understanding or realizing that that's what you're doing. And then you go to somewhere where it's like, oh look, 20 other people are dressed just like me. I'm included, and that's such a great thing. It's it's just so wonderful to see how far like that community has grown and come from even 5 6 years ago to now is just how much it's grown and just how much is out there. It's mind boggling.
Oh, absolutely. Just the amount of, like, new people and accounts that I see. Like, "Oh my gosh, like, they cosplay the same thing that I do," and I never view it as a competition. That's a thing that's new that I don't get, of, like, why people view it as competition of, like, "Oh, you're cosplaying the same character as me or from the same fandom? Oh my gosh, let's talk about it." That's why, like, the Black Widow community is wonderful. There's a whole Facebook group, and we all just exchange, like, photos of our works in progress and just talking about the movie right now, of course, or merchandise. Like, Ulta released a Black Widow makeup line. This is what I got from it, and this is how it looks. And everybody's so supportive in that community. And, nobody's at each other's throats. Nobody's like, "Oh, you're doing the same Natasha as me?" No, it's all like, "Oh my gosh, another Natasha. Let's talk about Natasha and Black Widow." And that's something that's just goes to the sense of inclusion and community of, yes, like you were saying, there are people like me.
Yep, exactly. It's so like I I don't understand the competition side of things, especially with like characters, because everyone's got their own take. Whether you want to be movie accurate, or you want to go your own way, or do comic, or just anything, and
Yeah.
it's just so wonderful to see like people come together over shared interests and shared fandoms, and just
Yeah.
have a great time. Like I hope at some point this year I just want to see a convention where I see a group shot of just like 20 or 30 Natashas just all together.
Yeah.
That would be
That
awesome.
happened at KatsuCon. That happened at KatsuCon in 2020 because it was a Marvel shoot, and the Natashas were all gonna be in the front because we thought the movie was going to come out, that year. But, I do have a photo of about 15 Natashas all together,
That's
and a
awesome.
Bucky and a Fury. I even remember, like, at New York Comic Con, this is a story I wanna share. This is how I met this friend. I was at New York Comic Con as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and they were Negasonic Teenage Warhead. This is, friend Zero at IDK Gravity. And we spotted each other, and we just like, "Oh my gosh." And we, like, started talking, and we exchanged Instagrams, and that is how we became mutuals and how we became friends. And when there was like certain drama going on in the community about this kind of competition, that's what we were talking about. We're like, we're literally friends because we were cosplaying the same character. Like that's what it should be. Like it should be something you should bond over, not get jealous or angry over.
Hmm.
Because it's all a shared fandom. It's all shared interest. We both thought Negasonic was really cool. We both got the suit. I think theirs it was a little different, but we both had like the same dark lip, and we talked about Deadpool and stuff, and we're both really into horror, and it's a great way to form friendships. Cosplay is a great way to form a community.
Absolutely. I mean, you're all investing blood, sweat, and tears, and money for the most part into what you're doing. Like that really should be like, hey, let's be friends and talk about stuff versus the competition side that sometimes pops up. But it's nice to see the friendships being made, and I know like at certain conventions that I've run into like different people. I'm like, oh, I recognize you off of Instagram. That's awesome. Like, way to go.
Right. Oh yeah, I do that too. I'm like, oh, you're this handle, and I'll never remember their name. I only remember handles.
Yes, because people don't have names anymore.
I just don't. I've seen your face, and I know who you cosplay, but oh my goodness, what's your name again? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, Mandy, for people that have listened to this episode and they would like to find you out there like I have in the great wide world of the internet, what are the best places to track you down?
Instagram is at Mandy Bars, all one word, like candy bars, but Mandy. And my Ko-fi, coffee, I don't know how it's pronounced, is also ko-fi.com/Mandy Bars.
And you also I think you also write for some
Yeah,
blogs.
I do. I write for Carbon Costume at carboncostume.com, Horror Chromatic, so horrorchromatic.com, and Project Nerd, that's project-nerd dot com.
Awesome. And what do you write? Just general blogs, or is it something specific? Just out of curiosity.
Carbon Costume is costume guides. Sometimes we get some feature length articles. Now that events are starting up, we'll do some more press. Horror Chromatic articles about horror movies and the horror genre. And Project Nerd, I've been recently doing 30 days of uh, cosplay pride. So we've been featuring all LGBTQ cosplayers for the month of June. And besides those features, we've also got tutorials and other feature articles about cosplay.
Awesome. Well, I will have the links not only to your Instagram and coffee. I pronounce it coffee. Coffee, Ko-fi. I'll have the links to that in the show notes, along with the links to the websites and Instagrams for the three blogs that you contribute to. So that way, if you, dear listener, are listening and want to go check out Mandy, you can click on them and go and find their work and make sure to follow and like and comment and share because the algorithms, and that's what we do. But Mandy, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come and hang out with me and talk fandom.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.